We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. We are also right now coming to you on Facebook at News Channel 5. If you want to issue comments, a lot of people, and I'll get to those in a moment, talking about the property tax increase, 34%. It's an awful lot. A lot of people wondering about this referendum, maybe to recall it. As I said this morning, we're going to talk to some department heads here in the city to give you a take on what it means if that property tax doesn't happen and what things are like budget-wise for these various agencies that do some important work in the city. We just heard from Metro Codes, and now we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk the Fire Department Chief William Swan joining us now. Good morning to you, sir. Can you hear me all right?
I can. Good morning.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. We just heard from William Herbert over at Metro Codes, and we were just talking now about the Fire Department. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I had William talk about what Codes does. I think, don't you, that most people know what the Fire Department does? Or are there some things maybe that the general public doesn't realize you do beyond just putting out fires?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, I think I've been trying to tell that story since I've been in this position. We do so much more than just put out fires. Of course, fires are so devastating and it can destroy so much property and lives, which is absolutely true. But when you look at the fire department, really, it'd probably be more accurate for us to say we're all hazards department, because we make everything from, your medical calls, your shootings, stabbings, homicides, suicides, drownings, overdose, suspicious packages, of course, our weather incidents. We do high angle trench. It's so many things that we do. Very rarely, if a citizen or visitor or residents need help, when they call 911, it will involve the Nashville Fire Department in Office of Emergency Management, because we are all hazards department. We deal with every emergency.
Okay, well, I'm glad you did that, to lay that out. I had forgotten some of those things that the department actually does, but we've covered you so often for so many years on what great work the fire department does. So tell us, if you would, a little bit about the budget situation as you sit here now, and in anticipation of this property tax increase and the monies it will bring, and then we'll segue from that into what happens if that money does not happen because of this referendum. How tight are things with the fire department, and what might this mean?
Well, to sort of answer your questions in the format that you gave them to me, basically, to give just a quick history, the Nashville Fire Department really has not grown any in almost 20 years. And, I've always been trying to relay the message that this city is not just growing up, but it's growing out. And for us to be able to stay progressive, a department, we have to be able to stay up with the growth of the city. And quite frankly, that's just have not happened. And we are setting right now, just in the status that we're in, the first giving credit to the men and women on this department who does an incredible job every day to be able to manage the emergencies that we deal with. You'll be surprised, just in a week period, we make close to 3,000 runs of calls of different natures. And to be able to absorb all of that, it takes a very aggressive, progressive department with dedicated men and women to be able to manage it. So to just, as I said earlier, we haven't grown, our number in this department have not grown in almost 20 years. And then in the last 10 years, a decade or so, just our budget has always been so low and minimal, but that we have done a lot of great things with little. And one of the disadvantages about our department, you got a department that's very progressive, type A personalities everywhere. Our job is to manage emergencies. And I think we do so well at managing and handling situations that sometimes it doesn't show the true story of where we at it as far as a city with emergency management and the fire department. Because at the end of the day, my message is it doesn't matter what we're going through, if it's tornadoes, pandemic, or whatever, you're going to have emergencies.
Sure. And
you're going to need a progressive department like ours to be there to handle those. And it's just amazing of the work that we've done and the creativity that we've had to do to just be able to handle the situation. But as always, we're committed to be able to protect and serve. That's what we've sworn to do, and we'll continue to do that. but we have to be able to stay up with the current growth. And the administration, of course, I think coming in, they definitely knew that, and it was very positive about the possibilities. And just like so many people, not just in Nashville, but just in the world generally, and especially the States, we've been hit with so many things in this pandemic because it's took us to a place that we've never been before. But so we're very excited. We're very excited about the possibility of getting some growth. So if this referendum passes, it gets put on the ballot and it passes, and we've all been given a scenario of 35%. And I don't mean look at the 35% because with that number, absolutely, it would devastate the Nashville Fire Department because we would be closing down stations and closing down med units and not being able to perform our functions as we should. But my message is any reduction, we have no fat on the bone. We have been reduced down to a slim and trim for many years. So we cannot afford any reduction without it affecting the people that we're sworn to protect.
I think you put it very plainly there. I mean, in a nutshell, then, if this were to occur and you have to close down some of these stations and shut down some of these medical units, that means in the big picture, obviously far slower response times. I mean, and potentially that could cost lives.
Oh, absolutely. Times, listen, seconds and minutes do count, and it's not a scare tactic. It's just the fact that we try to just keeping up with the current affair of where we're at in this city is always a challenge. It's like a chess match every day. When you look at the territory that we have to cover, the amount of calls, right now we're already at a point where we have to send more equipment on the scene, not because we need equipment, but we need the staff from that equipment just to be able to manage our current situation. So again, this would be very difficult. And it would be one that's like something we've never seen before. So it is one that's alarming for us as a department, but my message would be that we're just like insurance. No one likes to pay insurance, I get that. Right. But when an emergency happens, you thank God that you do have it, and that's what we're about. I think people expect when you have an emergency, whether if it's a fire or if it's a medical or what have you, when they call 911, they expect us to show up and to try to make that as much right, that wrong situation as much right. And we do that. And I'm just proud to be, again, the chief of this department. But there would be a great challenge that would be hard to overcome.
Just before we let you go, I know you're tight on time. I really appreciate you taking a moment with us this morning. Some will say, and I'm sure you would agree, when you hear the 34%, it's like it catches you off guard. And some may say it's too much. And they'll say, well, is there a way? And I asked the same question of William Herbert with codes. I assume over several years in recent history, you've done as much as you can to do things leaner and smarter. Do you believe you can convince the public that, look, it's not like I've got a bunch of corners I can cut right now to satisfy this proposed 35% reduction if this is repealed? You pretty much are at the point now where the rubber hits the road?
Oh, absolutely. I think, and to your point, I made that at the very beginning, that we are, we're lean and trim. We cannot afford any whatsoever. And of course, if you've been following me and from our budget, since I've been here, 4 or 5 years now, been saying that same thing. So we are at a point where we are already, 2 med units down. We have our staffing as far as suppression. We're close to 70 short as we are right now. So we have no fat on the bone. We're pretty much as lean as we can be. I just commend the men and women that work for this department. Again, they are the ones that do the incredible job every day. But no, we cannot afford any. When you look at the 35% or 34%, And again, we've all been given scenarios to just how that would look for our department. I can assure you, we cannot afford any. I mean, so I'm just hoping that, again, we know there's no perfect time for tax increase. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I think that every citizen and residents is worth in a productive Nashville. I think they expect to be able to rest easy at night and know anytime that they call 911 that they're going to get Class A treatment, and that's what we do every day. So this would definitely bring into some deep concerns.
It would be a deep concern to the point where you would worry for the city.
Oh, no doubt. It would be a serious. It would cause reductions, and of course that goes into your insurance, because if your homeowner's insurance, it's a whole package. I mean, when we sat down and worked out different scenarios, just how we would handle if we had a 5, 10, 15, 20% reduction, at the end of the day, it's the people who are ones going to suffer, because it will be slower response times. It will be more than just the I'm voting to not get property taxes. Again, it will have a ripple effect that you would feel.
Gotcha. You lay it out for us, sir, and I really appreciate it. I haven't even thought of that other aspect of it. You know, I'm thinking about lives and preservation of buildings and things like this, but yeah, you're in a situation where the response time's slower. What about insurance and what you're paying and to protect your home and all of that? Listen, I really do appreciate, Chief Swan, you coming on this morning, at least to lay it out plainly enough for folks what this property tax increase will mean or won't mean if it does or doesn't happen. And, you know, it's something for people to consider when they think about when they go to vote.
Absolutely. And just real quick, one last thing you said with codes, how that tie in, even with, and the thing I do want to bring to attention when we think about property damage, especially fires. I mean, you know, you see it all the time when we're about to come into fire, where it's always, I hate to use fire season, but this time of the year is when we start seeing an increase. When you see buildings, apartment fires, you know, the amazing thing is that your report, there was 2 units destroyed, for example. But think if we did not have an aggressive department, it would be a lot more damage. And then when you start talking about the rebuild, and that's where codes and the fire department comes back into play because of the reduction, it would just slow down the whole process. So it's truly a ripple effect. And we just hope people consider their options and understand, again, we're just here to provide the safety that we're sworn to do, and we hope everybody considers that.
Chief Swan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate your time and laying that out for us, for people to listen to and consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You be safe, and appreciate you joining us. Listen, we'll take a break. It was good to hear from him. So we've heard from Codes and Metro Fire. We'd love to hear from every department head, I suppose, just to see, and they're going to tell a similar story. But we'll wrap things up hearing from Kent Oliver, Director of Metro Public Libraries, and the whole issue of libraries and the future for them and what this means for them. Same way, same question for him that we've heard from the others, and more of you can weigh in as well. We'll take a few calls and some of the comments after we hear from him right after this. Stay with us.